Hello friends, welcome back to another math lesson. It's Professor Pandemic, and today we are going to be turning mixed numbers into improper fractions and improper fractions into mixed numbers. That's what vice versa means, going back the opposite way. So to start, we're going to start with mixed numbers going to improper fractions. Now a mixed number is a fraction with a whole number with it. That's why it's mixed. It's got a whole number and a fraction. To turn it into the mixed number, there are a couple steps you have to do. The first is taking that whole number and multiplying by the denominator, which is the bottom number of a fraction. In this problem, it's 6 times 5, that equals 30. The second step is taking this new 30 that we just multiplied and adding the top number or numerator to it. So 30 plus 4 is 34. Now, that 34 becomes your new numerator, your new top number. The denominator then comes down and stays the same. When you're going from mixed numbers and improper fractions or improper fractions to mixed numbers, the denominator never changes. So we're always going to have the same denominator in all these problems. If you start with 5, you end with 5. You have 24, you end with 24. The only thing that's really changing is your numerator and possibly a mixed number if you're changing it to a mixed number. So let's start with a couple mixed numbers and start changing them into improper fractions. All right, friends, I've given you 2 problems to start with. So again, if you need to pause the video before you see the answers, please do so. I have 7 3/4 and 9 5/6. Turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. All right, friends, hopefully for the first problem, you ended up with 31 over 4. And for the second problem, hopefully you ended up with 59 over 6. Let's do a couple more mixed number problems. All right, for these 2 problems, I have 7 3/8 and 5 5/7. Same thing as before, turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. All right, mathematicians, hopefully for the first one, you ended up with 59 over 8. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 3 is 59, and that's how I came up with the new numerator. Here, 5 times 7 is 35, plus 5 is 40, and that's how I ended up with 40 over 7. And notice again, denominators don't change in these problems. Again, multiplication facts are very important. Again, if you make a mistake with 7 times 8, or you make an adding mistake, those are where you're going to make these mistakes when you're doing mixed numbers to improper fractions. Let's do 2 more problems, and then we're going to go the opposite way. All right, friends, we have 12 4/5 and 8 2/9. Go find the improper fractions for both these problems. Hopefully you're feeling pretty confident at this point. 12 times 5 is 60, plus 4 is 64, which gives us 64 over 5 is our improper fraction for this number. Then we have 8 2/9. 8 times 9 is 72, plus 2 is 74, which gives us 74 over 9. That's how we go from mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now we're going to go the reverse way, going from improper fractions to mixed numbers. Mathematicians, this problem was one that we just changed from a mixed number to improper fraction. We're going to use this as our example of how to go the opposite way. So an improper fraction, friends, is when the numerator is larger than the denominator. And you're going to see this a lot when you're doing problems. We cannot have the numerator being larger. So if you end up with an improper fraction, you're always going to have to change it into that mixed number. And at some point, you might have to simplify, but that's another lesson. So what we have to do here is instead of multiplying, we have to divide. So that's a good thing to remember. When you're changing mixed number to improper fraction, you're multiplying. When you're going from improper fraction to mixed number, you're dividing. So you divide just like normal. 5 goes into 6 1 time, 5 goes into 14 2 times, you end up with a remainder of 4, so 12 remainder 4. All 3 of these numbers are used with your mixed number. Your quotient, or the answer, which is 12, that becomes your new whole number. Your remainder becomes your new numerator, and your denominator stays the same. And if you look here, 12 times 5 is 60, plus 4 is 64. And that's a good way to check your work to see if your improper fraction and mixed numbers make the same. They should equal each other. And that's how you find an improper fraction, or a mixed number, and make it into an improper fraction. This is the one you're going to probably do a lot more, because this is when you're adding fractions and adding mixed numbers, you're going to be doing this a lot more. So we'll do a couple of problems, only one at a time for this, because this does take a little bit longer with the division and kind of figuring out where everything goes. So let's try a couple problems and see how we do. All right, mathematicians, we have 31 over 8. Let's turn this improper fraction into a mixed number. Hopefully, friends, you ended up with 3 7/8 for your answer. Again, when you do your division, you have to divide 31 by 8. Hopefully, you got 3 remainder 7. Remember that 3 becomes your whole number, the remainder becomes your top number, and your denominator stays the same. Let's do a couple more problems. All right, 5th graders, for this one, we have 58 over 7. Change that improper fraction into a mixed number. Hopefully for this problem, friends, you ended up with 8 2/7. Again, we can get 8 groups of 7 out of 58 with a remainder of 2. So we should have 8 remainder 2 there, just to make sure we're being consistent. And then we have 8 as our whole number, 2 as our numerator, 7 as our denominator. And again, multiplication and division facts are crucial for getting these right. If you make a simple calculation mistake, it's not going to turn out right. That's why I always say when you get your mixed number, go back and check 56 plus 2, 58. Make sure it matches that top number. And also make sure your bottom numbers or denominators are the same. So that way you can see. It takes a second, especially going this way where maybe with division you're not as sure about yourself. Check it. Take a couple seconds, check it. It's always good to make sure you're right. Let's do one more problem for this lesson today. All right, friends, for this last one, I threw a trick at you. 63 over 9. Let's see if you can figure out what I did and come up with the right answer. I haven't put the exact answer yet, friends, because I wanted to see if I tricked you. So when you go through this, it comes out with no remainder. You just have a 7. So what's the answer? The answer is 7. So you don't need a fraction for this problem. Now, if you technically wrote 7 and 0 over 9, it's technically correct, but this is kind of like writing 0 for something after a number. If you have 6, why would you write 6 and a bunch of zeros afterwards? It doesn't make any sense. The number's still 6. So the same thing applies here. If there's no remainder, you don't have to write that fraction. You just have to write the whole number. And sometimes this will happen. Sometimes you still end up with even numbers. Just because we've been doing decimals and fractions and all these things doesn't mean sometimes you're not just going to end up with an ordinary number for your answer. So don't forget about that when you're doing this. So I hope this helped with turning mixed numbers into improper fractions and vice versa. I am Professor Pandemic, and until the next math lesson, the more you learn, the more you know. Have a great day, friends.